What's good? What's good? So Kyle should be calling in any second now. I'm sorry you have to stare at my mug. My cat might come say hi. Shit. She's walking over here. Okay, he's connecting to audio. Please don't fuck with my camera, cat.
My cat's over here like going crazy in this desk.
So I'm already recording, just an FYI. So like I started right before you dialed in. I just wanted to see if that would happen. So just a heads up.
Yeah, I just started recording as well. Okay, so
Hey. Um so I'm really sorry. I saw like all the amazing like notes that you took, but I haven't really looked into any of them. Well, so
yeah,
I looked at the very first thing that you sent me about the equity thing, and I was like, "Oh, yay." And then all the other notes, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is like I need to look at it, but I've just been so distracted."
that's totally fine. And I mean, so I can just like read through some of this stuff, and I don't think we're gonna find a whole lot of common ground on the equity and equality thing because it's gonna be an argument about semantics, and I don't really think going down that road will be very productive. We can at some point if you want to, but I wanted to talk about UBI and some other post-capitalist ideas that I think we could really find some agreement on. In a good way. Like it won't be boring.
Um, yes, absolutely. Um, man, I want to go in two different directions and I don't know which one to pick. Um, so how do we get to the post-capitalist society? Or I guess I'm so sorry. Like, do you have yeah, that's like my first, I guess, big question is like, how do we get to that post-capitalist society?
Okay.
And I think that's relevant because of recent events that we've seen.
So you've sort of already said it too, is like we're already like the transition is happening. And that's sort of a consensus also in a lot of the research that I did is that I mean uh although global capitalism has definitely like taken over as far as the dominant global economic system, um it's not crazy to think that it's on its downturn.
So,
Uh,
I want to just go back to a conversation we had previously. You agree that our system is more like feudalism, and so is it fair to call this global capitalism if it's more like just modern global feudalism? And I think that's a point I'm going to argue because in our email exchange, I mentioned I hope the post capitalist world has freer markets than we're seeing today because I don't think the markets are very free. I think there are a lot of loopholes and a lot of barriers to entry and a lot of just it's all about who you know and good old boys club, the corporatocracy, all these things. And so man, it just bugs me that people blame capitalism because I really don't think capitalism is the problem. I,
okay.
I think it's greed and it's the fact that we've never really addressed the ruling class issue. Um, so it's really funny that we're talking about post-capitalist society. Is there a name for it yet besides post-capitalist? I asked a bunch of questions. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was trying to keep track. So the only two I could really, and I'll start writing it down so I can keep track. Um, yeah, like as far as free markets goes, we another semantics thing. We need to talk about the difference between um, laissez-faire capitalism, which is the ultimate pursuit of free markets. And that's what we've talked about before, or you've said before, that capitalism is about free markets, and I think it's about increasing profits. Um,
Why do you think it's about increasing profits?
well, okay, I think there are versions of capitalism where that becomes the incentive instead of free markets. So, like I said, laissez-faire capitalism is a pursuit of free market capitalism, and then you have crony capitalism or corporate capitalism, which aren't necessarily the same. Crony is more politicized than corporate capitalism, but so that's what I'm talking about. Is like there's a bunch of different versions of capitalism, almost like there's a bunch of different versions of socialism,
I
but
knew you were gonna say that.
yeah, sorry, I'm
No,
sorry.
it's no, it's fine.
So
Because
there
you're right.
was
You're right.
another
You're correct. There
there
are
was
so
another
many.
thing I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you, and because you brought this up before, and I like the way you had said, like, okay, so it's about immigration policy, and more open borders and freer immigration helps freer markets. Would you agree with that?
Yes and no. And so there's like a divide in the libertarian community on this issue, actually. Um, so if you have a welfare state and open borders, then no, that does not help free markets.
Yeah. Okay.
And I
So
would
that's
say America is increasingly becoming a welfare state, but a bureaucratic monster of a welfare state. So it's designed that way to uh, pretty much create a voter base. Um,
most Western democracies are welfare states at this point. It just is sort of an extent. It's just to what extent?
and so this leads perfectly into universal basic income in that the more we can remove the administrators and bureaucrats from the system, the more money is freed up for the individual.
Yeah, and that is one of the arguments that is made, is that a UBI, uh, because it replaces all of the other uh, I don't know, benefits or whatever. It yeah. So I think you should let me just read this definition of UBI,
Yes,
and
go ahead. Yes.
we can go from there. Okay, give me 1 second to pull this up. Okay, so this is from an article by a gentleman named Stephen Davies.
Um, I'm just gonna change it to all participants can share screen.
Yeah, okay, so I'll share my screen.
Okay, so you should be able to now.
Yeah, no, I can share it.
Okay, cool.
We're good. Okay, so UBI is a payment given by the state to all qualified persons within its jurisdiction as a matter of right. The payment is meant to be at least enough for subsistence, although some of its advocates want a level sufficient to support what a consensual view in the society in question regards as an acceptable, though not luxurious, standard of living. The UBI is supposed to replace all existing income transfers such as unemployment and sickness benefits, old age pensions, child benefits, disability benefits, and special aid such as food stamps. Usually, it is stipulated that all income over and above the basic UBI is taxed, with most worked out proposals estimating that a marginal tax rate of no less than 40% would be required for the sums to add up. So this is actually incredibly similar to the freedom dividend, and I looked that up, the Andrew Yang proposal.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is, except for maybe the 40%. I think that was the literally like the only difference was the tax rate, but it's basically the same proposal.
Um, yeah. So I think one exception is that like s- something SSDI, so Social Security Disability Income, I think you would get both. And but yeah, for the most part, that sounds a lot like Andrew Yang's proposal of the freedom dividend.
Yeah.
Um, man, okay.
So I'll just keep going because yeah, and we can this will wrap it up on the UBI, or we can just go on.
Yeah.
Okay, so UBIs, they increase the autonomy and hence the personal responsibility and self-directedness of the recipients. This happens in two ways. The cash simply increases the independence of recipients by giving them something they lack, which is money, and hence access to resources. More importantly, giving cash with no conditions attached means that recipients are allowed to choose how to use it and are so made responsible for that and the outcomes of their decisions. This would not be a bad thing, but a benefit, as it would free people from toil and drudgery for higher pursuits.
Gosh, it sounds almost like Karl Marx wrote that. No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry.
No, that I have a quote from Marx later that I wanted to share.
Ah!
I wasn't gonna tell you. I was like, I'm not gonna tell him it's Marx. I'm just gonna read it to him, and I bet he'll say, "Yeah." But no, none of that. Everything I just read is from that article by Stephen Davies.
Yeah, and I love all of it, and I want to play the devil's advocate almost before we move to that post work section. If oh shoot, um,
Oh, let me go back. I'm sorry.
no, well, it was just there was one expression, um, the self responsibility or personal responsibility and
And
self
self-directedness.
directedness. And so right now um a big argument I get from my friends that are hesitant to want to adopt or even consider UBI is that personal responsibility and sense of purpose in life. But I also almost wanted to use this opportunity to segue into um, something that I am concerned about in terms of aligning with the progressive movement to accomplish these objectives. And it goes right along those lines of personal responsibility. I'm going to share my screen in a minute. Let's see, I'll do it actually right now. Share screen, 1%. Oh,
Oh, do I need to stop?
nope, we're good. I just had to take over and then let's see. Okay, this. So let's bring the culture war up for a minute because I think it is going to be one of the biggest dividers in us reaching this post-capitalistic state. And this is a real graphic that was put out by the Smithsonian. Have you seen this, or is this new to you?
This is totally new to me. I'm
Okay. And
fascinated
so
already.
when, well, let me go back just a little bit more. In talking about equity and equality and the introduction of communism into the West, there is an attempt. It's called the slow march through the institutions. This is an attempt to infiltrate the institutions of Western civilization and begin to subvert them by dismantling what we have built. Now, I agree that what we have built needs rebuilt. However, I'm very, very hesitant to want to work with people who put out content like this. And this is the stuff that I think is very, very divisive. So, aspects and assumptions of whiteness and white culture in the United States. So, things like rugged individualism, the family structure, emphasis on the scientific method, history, which I'll agree is a bunk one. But time, following rigid time schedules, time viewed as a commodity, um, justice. So there are all these things that are almost like nonsense. How are these aspects of whiteness? And I thought like self-responsibility was on this. It looks like it might not be, but with the introduction of liberalism, conservatism kind of recoiled in concern for a lack of self-responsibility. And I'll stop sharing my screen now.
No, hold on. Hold
Oh,
on.
okay, yeah.
There was something at the bottom of that art. Can you scroll down a
Yeah,
little?
maybe. How far down?
It wasn't part of the graphic I saw. I think it was in the references. Oh, no, that's it. Never mind.
Uh-oh.
No, that's fine. I thought I saw something I didn't. It's all right.
Ah, okay. Um, and so I believe in people, but I understand why other people don't believe in people. Um, and so bringing us back to that question of how do we bring about the post-capitalist world when there's so much division in the country? And so it's I know that's not, I guess I'm stuck on that, um, because I love UBI and I want to help make it work, but I don't know how to align with any movements at the current moment.
Yeah. I guess I don't really either. I mean, if I had to label myself into any part of any movement, I guess I would say I'm a progressive in the what I would consider the purest sense. But I don't really want to get into that because I believe we have before. Um, I think what is going to help us is people becoming more educated on things like socialism, capitalism, UBI, things like that. Like the fact that uh, people have such a lack of understanding of those two words specifically, capitalism and socialism, is I think um, like weirdly affecting our discourse in a strong way when it's just two words. Like, yeah, I don't know.
It's almost as if people with money and power realize that and push buttons to cause friction. I realized that my tinfoil hat is actually at the dry cleaners, so that's why I'm wearing my beanie. But uh,
Just run it through the dishwasher, man. You don't have to. Sorry.
well, no, it's divide and conquer. Like that's just what I believe is that all that people with money and power have to do is just like pull one string. And that's the thing, is it's not one conspiracy. It's just a whole lot of people with money and power who understand that they're playing a game that we're not. But I'm sorry, I'll get off the soapbox.
No, there's something I kind of wanted to, not kind of, that I really wanted to show you. And It has to do, sorry to go back to it, but with the equity and equality thing, but it is more so about healthcare and nutrition. And I know that that is a subject that you care about. Um, and so I'll just share it with you real quick, and I'll email this to you. But I really want you to check this out because I think you'll enjoy this article when you look at it. Hold on. So it's from foodandnutrition.org and understanding and promoting nutrition and health equality. And it starts off about how COVID-19 is hitting communities of color harder because of lack of healthcare in those communities. And that's a whole healthcare equity and equality thing. But then it talks about nutrition and food deserts and all the stuff about how we can promote healthier lifestyles in urban communities. It's not really a soapbox thing. It's like, yeah, here's the problems. This is what we can do about it. It's pretty good.
One of my friends told me this factoid, I guess. I haven't followed up on it, but he says that McDonald's isn't really the corporate McDonald's isn't really a restaurant company. They mostly do the franchise, like they make money off franchise fees and then real estate. So they'll like buy the real estate in the buildings, and then people will not only pay the franchise fees and the licensing, but then they'll also pay rent. And so they're actually more like landlords, which is kind of funny, fitting for the times. And I bring that up because I use McDonald's for a lot of reasons, because I don't want to say I hate McDonald's, but they're just like the perfect example of how things have gone so wrong in America. How fast, cheap shit, the lowest common denominator, just fucking garbage, and it's bad food, and they pay people poorly. And so the more McDonald's you see convenience, yes, but you also see like unhealthiness on multiple levels, not like physical, but also then mental unhealthiness, because I can't imagine a lot of McDonald's employees are happy. I mean, you obviously can and should find meaning outside of your employment, but going back to the universal basic income, if your job is crap and your pay is crap and the life around you maybe isn't that great, yes, you still should look for meaning, but I understand it if it's fucking hard. And so McDonald's are like symbols of what is wrong with America to the core. So thank you for letting me rant on that.
No, it's I mean, it kind of I'm not like I'm not a communist. I don't think we should get rid of private property or anything, but literally what you just said is like their bread and butter is off of the exploitation of private property. Like that's what it is. That's what being a landlord is it's owning property and making money off of your property.
So yeah, this is something I think about. How does property in like the land sense, how do we handle that in a post-capitalist world? Like, are
Okay,
you obligated? I'm sorry, go on.
no, I'll try to answer that because I had a question for you that I've been like basking on. So yeah, I this is we've talked about it before, actually, I think the difference between personal property and private property, how like, your personal property is like your house, your clothes, uh, your toothbrush, things like that you're not really going to share. That's your personal property. Private property is when you own property and then you lend it to somebody else or rent it to somebody else. That's the way I understand private property. As it's not the property that you use for yourself. It's not personal property. It's private property that you use in a capitalist system. So yeah, I don't know. how private property would exist in a post capitalist system. I'm sorry, I can't really answer that. I tried.
No, that's man. It's like I have another friend that I talk to a lot about economics, and he always says, "Well, I don't know," and I'm like, and I'm telling him it's like we're not talking about what economics says today. We're talking about what economics is going to say in 20 years because
Yes.
we're getting to rewrite this. And so this brings me to sort of a question in terms of the taxation. That 40% tax rate seemed really high.
Well, it's
But
a
like,
marginal tax rate. You know, marginal means that it goes up the more you make.
um,
So I think 40% would be the lowest. And yes, I would agree that that's probably a high place to start.
and then like when you add on top of that, uh, like all the little taxes and fees that you have to pay, like if you go to a national park, it's so frustrating when you're paying like so much in income tax. And then I'm unemployed right now, but when I worked at Boeing and I was making good money, man, that first paycheck that I got from Boeing, that was a good paycheck, and I was like, whoa, they take that much out in taxes. um anyways, and so it gets really frustrating. Another example is I recently bought, well, not recently, last year I bought a car for $800, and I had to pay $200 to get it like licensed and registered in my
Yeah,
name.
dude, that's so funny. I was just gonna say, like, if you like, you could consider like registration fees and whatnot a tax, and I just literally just did the same thing. So
And
yeah,
so,
it is a tax of some kind.
so I get it when people are hesitant to add more taxes, and then we haven't even discussed like the waste of our tax dollars because
But
our
hold
government.
on, this definition says that it replaces existing income transfers like sickness benefits, old age, and all those other things. So like I think they do a pretty good job of covering the main thing, and like I think those are the things that are mentioned because of budgetary reasons. When it comes to the federal budget, it is things like disability, pensions, things like that that really do that would be affected by a UBI. So yeah, it sucks that there's tons of other taxes. Like, and it's not like sales. Well, would sales tax continue to exist? Probably.
Well, see, almost going back to that personal versus private property conversation. And then also like the whole open borders versus closed borders thing. I want as many, and like let's another topic that is often discussed around UBI. So let's bring that in. Changing the definition of work
Yeah.
or expanding the scope of it. Maybe I've been thinking about like contribution. Like people should contribute. Now, the expectation that their contributions should be monetary producing is what funnels people into the systems that we've allowed to grow that suck. And so universal basic income provides that freedom. And so when people think to themselves, how can I contribute to this world? That's more inspiring and meaningful. Um, and instead of like, well, shit, how can I fucking pay rent this month? Excuse my language. Um, and so I like the idea of people who want to contribute in this region. And so, like, the idea of borders is necessary, but I don't know if it's necessary, but for now it is. This region, people who want to contribute in this region need to pay into this system.
Yes,
This
exactly.
system should be simple.
You can
Um,
still have pretty free flowing migration with substantial borders in place. You just have to
um,
have the laws set up. It's not too complicated for us, believe me. Our legislature or legislation is already complicated to high heaven, so I'm pretty sure we could figure out how to keep solid borders and allow people to migrate freely, more freely.
and so I like the idea is that if you're engaging in a transaction in these boundaries, these borders, that transaction should be taxed. So it's almost like we can have states, but crap, I don't know, but just like have a transactional tax structure. But I question that the supply chain that would add up really quickly if you had like raw materials being shipped from one producer to another producer to another producer to end up at an end item assembly. So I can see how like a transactional tax can also be a double-edged sword. So like we could have some items be exempt, like raw goods, like lumber, if you're just a logger. But then that gets into Mother Earth and natural resources, and how do we choose who gets to use them? So it's so tough. I didn't ask a question.
Well,
I'm sorry.
no, you're fine. I'm just going to bring it back to just reiterate a point that you were making before, because this is a quote from the next article by Andy Hines. And he writes, "It is critical to remember that a post work future does not mean that people will run out of useful things to do, but rather that they will not require jobs in order to be useful."
Is there a timeline by chance, or is this we're just super theoretical right now? Or
Yes, that one is pretty super theoretical for sure.
okay, because
But it has to the points you were making a couple minutes ago were reminding me of this. In that, like, yes, we need to redefine what work is and what leisure is, I guess, and what usefulness is.
yeah, something that Andrew Yang said all the time that I loved, that like one of the reasons I loved him is that he made me feel human again, was that we need to separate human value from economic value. Um, so very goddamn true. And so that post work comment, it makes me think of two things that are connected but separate points. We'll see which one takes off. Um, I don't think there will ever actually be a post work world, because once we hit that globalization level and kind of hit that tier one society and become another planetary war, like just war will always be a thing. So uh, how does post capitalism and post work handle war? Do you have a military? And this is something I think about because I shit on the military industrial complex, but you kind of need a military. Do you? You do.
Yeah, I mean, so that really does come down to like because militaries only make sense in a nationalist system, a system where nations exist. So you were talking about globalism, and this is, I guess, what I want to ask you. And this is, I'm, I almost, I'm almost sorry for asking you this, but do you think globalization is inevitable?
Oh man, I thought you were gonna ask me if aliens exist. um, sorry. Um, oh, so shoot. Yes, I think globalization is inevitable, but I think like 1,000 years from now. So there's a gentleman named Buckminster Fuller. Um, was known as like a futurist, and he did a lot of miscellaneous things. He was really crazy, but um, wrote a really cool book called Operating Manual for Spaceship Earth. And so when let's bring back UBI, because I love that we can connect UBI to all of this. He says that Earth is actually like a spaceship traveling through the universe. And it's beautiful because as long as the sun is burning and healthy, we're able to sustain ourselves. It is a self-regenerating system. So it's like this self-regenerating spaceship flying through the universe. I do believe in aliens. So I do believe if we are smart in our utilization of resources, we can provide an awesome standard of living for a lot of number of people on this planet while we begin to explore extraterrestrial communication. So it's like a lot of people think about tomorrow and next week and next year, maybe, but I'm thinking about 1,000 years from now. And there's an example of Louisiana. So, you know how it floods there because their dam systems are shit, because they built their dams based on what's like the worst that we're going to see in 100 years. That's just shitty planning.
I
But
mean,
I
if the
think it's
dams
in,
weren't there, Louisiana would already be underwater.
say again.
If the dams weren't there, it'd already be underwater. Like there's no Louisiana should not exist.
I'm trying to remember what country it was that was it Holland? What's another country in like Europe that has the similar issues? Well, anyways,
Oh,
this country had the foresight. They were like, okay, what's the worst storm we're going to have to deal with in 1,000 years? And let's build to those specs. And so that post-capitalist society will really have long, super long-term objectives in sight, which is
okay.
kind of like we're like to bring back the to bring back that how do we get there point, because we're so divided, man. I just can't get past it, because like we have to unite the people before we can even get there. And it's I'm demoralized, man. I'm just so demoralized right now.
Well, let's talk about something crazy then, because there was something that you were just saying, and oh yeah, so like it's kind of like if you're talking about these long, like maybe 1,000 year plans or whatnot, but it reminds me of how the Egyptians built the pyramids. And before we get into whether or not the aliens built, I think if you want to say the aliens built them, it's like, dude, you're really sort of denying the fact that the ancient Egyptians were master mathematicians with a huge hard on for a large bureaucratic task that would last hundreds of years. So, like, yeah, I guess you could think the alien, but I'm pretty sure the Egyptians were up to it, man. You like
uh,
that one?
well, there's so much I want to say, but I think it was Milton Friedman who once saw a group of Soviet workers, or a picture of Soviet workers doing digging work with shovels while there was like heavy machinery available. And he said, "What's going on?" And somebody told them, "Oh, well, it's a work program." And so he replied, "Well, then why not give them spoons?" So, and that's like one of the reasons I don't like
Nice.
communism. And that's like federal jobs guarantee we can bring up, if you which is connected. But then also, like, going back to the pyramids, I met a gentleman and he gave me a copy of his book. He wrote the book. It's called This Side of the Gate. John Johnston. He believes that he has connected with his past lives, and in one of them he helped build the pyramids. And he says that they imbued crystals with powers via intense meditation, and then these crystals were able to levitate the stones into place. I'm not saying I
Okay,
believe
that
that, but I just wanted to share that.
yeah, no. I would say that's about as believable, or maybe even more believable than the aliens thing. I don't know.
Well, so but that's the thing, is that they don't, like, from what I understand, they don't really know how they were built. Like, not
Oh,
like
I
the
thought that they did know, like architecturally, like what they did to do all that, but maybe not. I don't know.
they
Um,
did, but
I
even
thought
with
it was
modern
like,
technology, we couldn't recreate it. That's the thing. That's the
huh?
mind puzzling thing. Like, with like today, we couldn't recreate it.
Okay. Well,
Um,
yeah, I think you've probably done a little more research
well,
than me.
so and that's the thing, is like I
Why I
want
was
to go
thinking
there
about it.
so bad. I want to go to Egypt so bad.
My mom's been there a couple times, and she says it's amazing.
I just
Um,
feel like the pyramids have power, and I feel like they would reinvigorate my like life force, because yes, okay, anyways. So I said federal jobs guarantee, and then you got excited.
I just like the idea of jobs programs, period, because they haven't really existed since, I don't know, like forever. Um, and they were a big part of the New Deal. And he was just like, jobs for this, jobs for that. Like they started the WPA, which it was a writer's project, writers something, blah, blah, blah. And they literally just sent journalists around the country writing, like interviewing like old slaves and like just random housewives and all kinds of stuff. And they just made these jobs. And that's like probably the one of the worst examples because it's like a liberal arts thing, but they also created like the park service and like all of these labor jobs, like actual hard labor jobs. And I just feel like, dude, seriously, instead of like uh, selling off our massive infrastructure projects to private companies, which is what we're doing. Private contractors are doing almost all of the construction in cities,
And they're doing
and
shitty jobs.
what
And they're doing shitty jobs.
exactly? And these should be public enterprises, not private enterprises, and that's how I feel about a lot of things.
Is well, so how does the public attract talent to compete with the market?
I mean, right now, because of the global situation we're in, I'm pretty sure it actually wouldn't be hard to recruit people. I think a lot of people are looking for jobs. Uh, so,
So,
no,
well,
no. In the modern day, I think if a jobs program was sort of created with a social media blitz, that could sort of have it's a modern twist on the jobs program idea to raise awareness.
I guess I was thinking more along the lines of the talent for the architect or the civil engineer that would design the bridge.
Yeah.
Because if they're good, they'd probably be working at a private firm. So the government would have to pay more, but the government already pays a lot. So it's like maybe the deeper question here is how do we address government inefficiency? Because
Uh,
I kind of just assume that a lot of these contracts are being handed out to friends and friends of friends. And it's like, I just think Washington, D.C. is just full of business dinner meetings where people meet, handshakes are done, and millions of dollars are just gone in different directions.
so this sounds like it's inefficiency in the private sector. Then, if these are
Well,
all
well,
contracts getting and everything's being done shittily, we just said it's private. Most of it's being contracted out to private companies. Like there isn't like a public infrastructure program, which there should be. Like there should basically be a public road system, and as far as I know, there isn't.
can we maybe say that 2020 was the year that the corporatocracy emerged? The corporatocracy being sort of the merging of the corporation and the state. And it's really funny, actually. I want to bring up this point super fast. Everybody likes to say that Donald Trump is a fascist. Donald Trump's a fascist, but he has been advocating for opening the economy. He has been advocating for the states to take charge of their own business. He was given on a silver fucking platter the opportunity to consolidate power, and he went the opposite direction. You know who went in the direction of fascism? The Democrats and the people who wanted to close small businesses and the people who are rioting and burning and looting and killing innocent people during the summer, during the mostly peaceful protests. So it's just the Orwellian newspeak is programmed into people. And so when you say that the private sector failed, I agree that the private sector failed. I agree because there's no longer a difference between the corporation and the government.
Yeah, so I just can't let you really say that everything, the riots and all that was just Democrats. That was Donald Trump's America. Everything that you just said happened during Donald Trump's administration. So
By Democrats. All the Black Lives Matters shit.
So Democrats stormed the Capitol yesterday or on Wednesday, and
I'm not talking about that.
By not seizing power when it was handed to him on a silver platter.
Correct. Donald Trump could have done.
Your position. I didn't want to talk
factual.
about. I did not.
It's factual. He could have done so much more. He could have done so much more to consolidate power, and he didn't.
Yeah.
What do you think a different person would have done? What would Joe Biden have done? He would have locked shit down. That is exactly what fascism is.
Joe Biden would have conceded the second that the election was called for him to have lost.
We're not. That's off the point.
No, it's not.
That is not at all connected.
Not conceding.
He had a legitimate.
Instigated the events that happened on Wednesday.
I'm not talking about the events on Wednesday. I'm talking about the events over the summer. And I'm talking about the record and intention of fascism.
Oh, dude.
And especially as it connects to the connection of the corporation and the state, which is what we have seen in 2020 with the closing of small businesses, with the decimation of people's lives.
An example of fascism is using federal power against private citizens, and he did exactly that.
That's been going on for decades, though.
Okay, I'm not going to sit here and say that other presidents aren't fascist, but to say that Donald Trump isn't a fascist, I'm going to sit here and tell you why I think he is.
Relative to other presidents, he is right on par. That's what I'm saying.
Dude, we've already talked about how it's basically part of the job to be a war criminal. Fascism is basically it's like, okay, there are a couple steps you have to take after that to reach fascism. So, yeah, I agree. Most presidents end up being fascists. And that's all I was saying. Is like, I thought you were saying that he wasn't, and I can bring up literal examples of his fascism. So, but I don't want to do that. I didn't want to do this at all. I thought maybe we could talk about January 6th a little bit and like how ridiculous it was. Exactly. I kind of want to laugh and except that like people died. It's kind of fucking sad actually, but it's crazy, man. And I think this is definitely something that you and I need to be more prepared for, because I don't think either of us is misinformed, but I think if we're going to have a conversation about this, we should have the points we want to make outlined. And that's really actually where I'm getting with most of our conversations is I like to be prepared when I'm talking to you.
Okay.
Which is unfair, I guess. But
no, it's not unfair. I'm just like, how the fuck did we get so far off the rails?
I know. So bad. Oh no, dude. Yeah, because there's if you will let me change the subject, there was a really good point in this other article that I think you will like. Unless you had another point to make.
Well, so you mentioned the 6th, but like then kind of trailed away. So like we can maybe go to the article.
What did I mention?
The 6th, Wednesday. What happened?
Yeah. It was a crazy day. I'm going to stop or pause the recording real quick, okay?
Okay.
So earlier you were talking about how do we get there? This sort of post-capitalist society, and this one article talked about three possibilities: um, tech-led abundance, non-workers paradise, and the sustainable commons. I'll bring this up so you can see it. So that's this stuff down here, three possibilities. So in tech-led abundance, the rapidly accelerating development of automation slash AI slash robotics, biotech, nanotech, and other technologies have created an abundance of wealth such that people no longer need to work. In the non-workers paradise, the political struggle over inequality that favors new organizing principles such as universal basic income begins. Finally, in the sustainable commons, there is work to be done, but it is managed as a commons rather than organized as paid work. So that sounds like communism, but yeah.
Well, thank you for saying that, because it gives me the perfect opportunity to bring up what I was just thinking a little bit ago. Was
But the first two parts sound like the world we live in.
um well, so the communism joke, it's a joke to you, but it's a very serious concern to me. And I absolutely, without question, believe you have a good heart and that you are a good person. But I am still very concerned about the collective ideal of communism. And I, so I don't know where we left off last time, because we agree that there is a culture war going on, but like you say, it's not real, but like, so I believe the culture war is the primary tool that they're using. And so it's like we talk about building this post capitalist world. I think that world is going to be, we're going to have to, there's a war through communism we're going to have to wage to get there. I believe it's not going away. It's going to get worse, I believe.
Okay, so we can talk about the communism thing, but I would like to amend my statement on the culture war. Is that, and we talked about this before, it's not that I don't think it's real, I think it's exaggerated. So that's where I stand on that. And also, we said that I said this before, and when I said it, I said I think something almost exactly like, if you think communist indoctrination is happening in American universities, then that's a conspiracy that I can't get behind. And that's and then you brought up the long, slow march. Yeah, I don't, sorry to be rehashing everything, but I believe this is what happened. And so,
Well, so let me just bring up a point real quick.
hold on.
You had not seen
Let me,
that Smithsonian document shitting on whiteness before. So, and I had said this in our previous chat, that our echo chambers probably lean left and lean right. So we're exposed to the crazy of each other's sides. I don't think that there is a communist takeover of the universities. I believe there is a communist infiltration. There is a big difference. I believe communists are infiltrating all of our institutions. That is the point. They are conniving people. It
so
is,
they're infiltrating to not take over.
no, they are infiltrating to take over.
Okay. But you just said that there was a difference. Like, there's a difference between infiltrating and taking over.
They're
Like, I get
infiltrating
it.
to
It's
take
like a
over the
two-step
West.
process.
They're infiltrating to take over the West as a whole.
Okay.
And through capturing power in these institutions. That is how they accomplish it.
Yeah. I don't want to get into another one of these situations where
Well, and see, but that's the thing is we're not.
let me finish.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
I don't want to get into one of these situations where I find it hard to believe that what you're saying, because I know that what you're saying is probably based in a lot of experience and research. However, I've already said before that like I'm struggling. So I guess maybe I'm hoping we can move on to a different point.
Well, so, but the reason you and I are here today is because, like I had said, I believe you have a good heart. There are a lot of people who will not engage me because they know that they will lose in the battle of ideas, because they know they will be exposed.
Well,
That is why people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are fucking fakes. She is a champagne socialist doing whatever she can to cultivate a little path to power and fame. She is so fake.
she's
So,
one member of the House of Representatives. Like
but
the
so
the AOC derangement syndrome is almost the same as Trump derangement syndrome. It's like, why do you think she matters so much?
the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and they're very loud. The squad are very loud, and they're the people pushing the things that I'm trying to raise
So
awareness.
she's not the head of the Progressive Caucus. She's not. She's just one member of the Progressive Caucus of the Democratic Party. So, like, yeah, if you want to be getting on somebody, be getting on Ilhan Omar.
Oh, I don't like her either.
Wait, I'm
No,
sorry.
hold on. Time out.
I'm sorry. My bad. Who's the head of the Progressive Caucus? I got it wrong. My bad. But I know it's not AOC.
I don't want to talk about it.
I'm saying, I just
I don't
don't
want
understand why people give her so much grief.
no. So let me just get us back on track.
Yeah.
So
Please
you admitted that you want to believe me and you want to meet me with good faith, and I appreciate that. That's why we're here. That's why we're here. Maybe we can bring the sixth into this as a segue to, for me, I wasn't surprised. Not at all. I expected that. That is, I would have been more surprised if that didn't happen.
Oh, you called it. That's what's so funny is like you kept saying to me multiple times, you were like, just wait till January 6th, wait till, and I was like, dude, nothing's going to happen. And then, good Lord.
This is like just the beginning. How, there's so much hate for Trump supporters. Like, how do we move forward as a country? And so, like, even not talking about the communism thing, talking about just the left versus right hate thing and the corrupt government thing, like this world, this utopianistic world, it's there are so many heads to this beast.
Yeah. So I want to, can we talk about the first 2 points?
Yes. I'm sorry.
The tech-led abundance, the rapidly accelerating development of automation and all that stuff. Technology creating abundance of wealth so that people no longer need to work. Does that not seem like where we're headed?
It absolutely does. Yes. The technocracy, but
that to me is one of the greatest arguments for a UBI. That was the other thing is in my research, I found these other, I guess, forms of UBI called unconditional cash transfers, which when I read a bit about it, sounded like reparations because I've done a little bit of research on reparations as well. But anyways, so those are called UCTs, unconditional cash transfers, but they're all part of GMI or GB, general basic income. It's like UBI, but it's a
Guaranteed
general
minimum income.
minimum income. Yes, thank you. So GMIs, UBI, UCTs, there's all these different things, and they basically come down to how it's paid for in the tax system. But yeah, so like with the technology stuff, it's going to happen at some point.
Well, I guess, well, two questions. Who fixes the robots? So we'll still need those people, and they'll need to be highly specialized. And then people will continually need to program them. So there's going to be almost like, maybe you can say, a shrinking category of specialized employment opportunities, and a growing category of what we're seeing now is the service opportunities. And so I was just thinking about this in the shower the other day. Uber and Lyft, and like now Uber Eats and whatnot, the gig economy is just like a shitty service economy. And fuck, there was more to it, and then I just lost it. I smoked too much pot.
No, that's all right.
Um,
Yeah, no. So
more people
I
are
feel
going.
like
Oh, sorry, go on.
with automation, there's going to be a shrinking of low skilled jobs. That's what automation and robotics take over. They take over low skilled jobs. High skilled jobs are the technicians, the engineers, the designer. So I actually see, I don't know if you said the opposite, but I see a shrinking of low skilled jobs, and I not really an increase of, well, maybe an increase of higher skilled jobs for, like I said, technicians and the people to run automation and AI and robotics.
I think of like the service economy and how that's going to be affected by this.
Yeah.
And I almost wonder if some people are afraid of UBI because they know that the service economy would be dramatically shifted.
Uh,
Which brings up like a point, maybe I'll just, an example. I like using gross examples because they stick well. I've told you that. But like I do some massage therapy, or I did. But there are times where like I don't want to massage. And so it's like a really weird psychological sort of position to be in, where I'm having to touch someone and give myself to someone. And then I extrapolate that to like sex work, and the same thing. Like I believe sex work should be a thing, absolutely. But like there's going to be an increasing popularity in the usage of this word, agency. We're seeing it a lot. Agency and autonomy. The UBI gives people agency and autonomy. It gives you fuck you money.
yeah.
Everybody should have fuck you money. That's
Yeah.
like the dream. Would all of the relationships in your life be the same if you had fuck you money? Mine would not be. And like that's the dream. And that makes me like, that's a personal thing. It's a personal admission, but like it makes me uncomfortable not being able to not having fuck you money.
Yes, exactly. That's the whole point. It increases autonomy and personal responsibility and self-directedness of the recipients. Yeah. So the last point I want to make from my notes is this thing about jobs and like their essentialness or whatever. So it's right here. Jobs are central to an individual's identity. Jobs provide structure to daily life. Jobs are the primary source of income. There's already, and I kind of jumbled some quotes together. There's already evidence that these three key roles that jobs play are already being challenged and chipped away. The transition is underway. So, yeah, all these things, like people want to talk about like people losing their identity or structure or income. None of that will all be preserved by UBI. having a structured like income, like you're not gonna like go all crazy and yeah.
Well, so yes and no. Yes and no. I think I because that's that's the first thing that people always say is like people are going to lose their meaning in life.
Mhm.
And so I think there
There's
needs to
no proof to that
um I think it's really
in my research.
well, I think in the human evolutionary terms, it's way too soon to know either way. I think and this is the thing that humans we're at like we're finally at the point where we can stop and think about the ramifications of our future actions. And so when we're setting up this UBI, I absolutely believe there needs to be a cultural messaging around there needs to be with the ushering in of the post-capitalist era a coupled cultural message that gives people direction and hope and a sense of unity. And I don't want to say nationalism, but like I see where nationalism comes from, and I almost see its power. Um,
Dude, what you were just saying kind of seems like in a post-capitalist system, you could have your UBI tied to public education so that people know how to spend their money properly.
what do you mean tied to public education? Because I'm not.
Oh, that's a big thing in the nutrition article that I was looking at earlier is like you can't just give people money or put good grocery stores in the good neighbor in these shitty neighborhoods because grocery stores still sell junk food and people aren't going to know what's good and healthy and whatnot. Like you have to unfortunately teach people to make healthy and proper decisions.
Okay, so let's talk about the culture war. I'm really sorry, but it's super relevant because there is a movement like super recent that is trying to normalize and the narrative that being fat is healthy. And it's on magazine covers, and you can look into this. There are big women on magazine covers saying this is healthy, and it's not healthy. And that's what I talk about when I talk about the propaganda and the subversion of Western ideals. Um, so it's like you have good intentions, but you have to understand that there are people who share your labels that don't. And those people are undermining your efforts. And those are the people that I'm worried about. And so I agree with you that you can't just put healthy food. There does need to be education involved in all of this, but like we're fighting an uphill battle, not just against the machine of the current system, but the machine that's trying to take over.
Yeah, I don't think the normalization of obesity and fatness would have happened if it weren't for the shitty systems that we had. It's kind of a catch 22.
Okay, I'm gonna run with that, and then
That's just what you, yeah, that's where I was going.
well,
Yeah,
no, I agree,
made
and
some really good points.
no, I agree, and hmm, hmm, hmm.
Yeah, I really want you to read this article. I know you might, yeah,
uh,
you're not going to
I
disagree with it for a second. You're going to like it.
well, so I want to bring up a personal story, another one to frame another sort of thought that I have. I have a I have a lot of I have a lot of friends. Not that I'm trying to brag.
I don't.
uh, well, see, but like the thing is, not a lot of them like will interact with me. A lot of them are secret friends because I'm a crazy person. So a lot of them, I'm a closet friend to them. Anyways, this one, um, I love this friend. I love everyone. Made a joke a few years ago. This is petty, but it adds up. Posted on my Facebook timeline this sad meme, this picture like crying with the expression when you spent $120,000 on a degree for a $40,000 a year job. And I was like, yeah, that's my life. Ha ha. But it's that's but it's really actually depressing. And so it's like, yeah, make a joke about it or whatever. But then like the other day, they they're they're not far right, but they're right leaning, and they're fed up with the culture war. So I think they have a lot of anger in their heart that they're not addressing. And they made this comment to me that they're like, you know what? I bet you if colleges had a job um, placement expectation program where you had to have a job lined up before you got a college degree, we'd have no more of these $120,000 useless degrees. And it triggered me because I'm like, what he doesn't seem to understand, and what I think nobody, the point I said was, yeah, nobody would have these degrees, but then the government wouldn't have debt slaves. And so it's like, I realize I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I also believe that our government doesn't care about our best interests. So it's like, that's why I'm so afraid of the government, like all government, because all government has just been proven to be shitty. So we're talking about like building this beautiful world, but we're still not addressing the core issues that have corrupted the current world.
We corrupted the current world that was never good. You said government's never been good.
Okay. Why has it never been good?
Because we've never had UBI. Preaching to the choir here. There's just a couple points that I want to talk about from what you just said. And in our last conversation, I used the word disenfranchised when I was talking about the plight of our generation and people, going to school and taking on all this debt and not being able to pay it off and not being able to get a good job. I didn't mean disenfranchised. I meant disillusioned. It's totally like, yeah, semantics, but it's kind of a big difference because I really don't feel disenfranchised and I never did. But when I came out of high school, I was so disillusioned. And that's what I meant to say. And I feel like maybe when you graduated from Western or whatever, wherever you went to school, that you were also disillusioned. And yeah, so this is another question I wanted to ask you. So this is all just leading into a random question. What did you do for Boeing? I'm really curious.
Let's see. So I started there. The official job title: product definition and change management specialist. Um, Honestly, I don't think the job needed to exist. And at one point, I even had made a presentation um, detailing how it could be removed. Well, so there's so much. Well, so actually, Boeing's. So I left Boeing. I quit because, and if you Google them right now, they're going through some shit. They're in some trouble, and so I can say that I did not. I did not witness any criminal activity, but I did witness discrimination that made me uncomfortable, and so that is why I left, amongst other reasons, like pot being one of them. But the discrimination sucked. But I knew that the corporate culture was broken and that bad things were coming. And so they actually just settled a $2.5 billion lawsuit with the government for fraud because they lied to the government. Um, but at the end of my career, I actually had transitioned into a business analyst role supporting an executive staff. So I made fancy charts in a program called Tableau. So it's a data analytics program. It's a really cool program. I don't have it now because it's expensive, and I don't have a need for it. But it also actually gave me really good insight into the importance of data, like quality data, the integrity of your data, consistency of data, and how you can shape the narrative with the visualizations of the data to tell a story. You could tell multiple stories with the same data and visualizations. And so it's like, mainstream media is fun. Anyways, I'm rambling.
You just almost gave me a little bit of a boner with what you just said. Um,
with like
yeah, I've never heard you talk about data in such a fond way. Uh,
because you think I'm anti-science and anti-intellectual, but
dude, you don't know what I think about you. Okay, let's come to that conclusion.
okay.
I I have no idea what you think about me, and I would like to keep it that way for a while at least. Oh, I think I'm coming to your neighborhood in July, and I really think we should get together.
Yes.
Yes.
Keep me posted. That's like in new timeline. That's like years from now.
Yeah. Right.
6
Uh,
months.
yeah. So I'll email you about the details. But yeah. So there's a really, I think we got through most of my notes. I did have one last question I wanted to ask you about post capitalism.
Okay.
Is there a currency in your vision of a post capitalist society?
Fudge, man. I was going to ask you the same question
Yes, I'm
because
so glad I asked it first because it's so hard.
there has to be. Um,
Okay.
there has to be a store of value.
Yeah.
Um, but then, so that Andrew Yang quote, we need to separate human value from economic value, giving everybody a UBI. You kind of remove that so they are automatically receiving an allotment of sustenance. And so they can create their own meaning in life. And then, so I, I, property rights and taxation and the planet. I think about these things like, um, because you mine a mineral like ore, like iron ore, like I'm thinking of Minecraft or whatever, right?
Yeah.
How do you store the value of that? Like
Yeah. No, that's what I was
what
going to
the
say.
that's what currency is. And so
Yeah. No. Okay. So
um
generally, currency is backed by a resource, not ours, but ideally it should be. Uh,
and so what if we
but
said that the resource was the planet? We just
well,
said
hold
the
on.
resource is the planet.
But you were talking about human value. How do you quantify that into your currency of post capitalism?
Well, so that's a really good question, especially when you talk about equity and equality, because equity is a quantitative word, but it's often used in situations where it has a qualitative sense. And so, how do you quantify human value? You can't. Or rather, the only people who can are the people who agree to engage in exchange. So, to whoever agrees to.
I just the qualitative and quantitative aren't mutually exclusive. Something can be both, and the my concept of equity is both
Well,
qualitative and quantitative.
so, uh, well, we're gonna talk about this one on a different day, the equity thing.
Dude, yeah, the article on equity basically explains this whole thing, and yes, we should talk about this on a different day.
Okay, okay. Um,
So okay, so I guess back to currency, property rights. Um,
well, so yeah, we do need a currency,
yes, and I can't really disagree there because you need something to make transactions.
and so
Um,
that's why I like Bitcoin because it's more or less open source, um, decentralized, it has a finite supply, but we will not. So actually, I think Bitcoin is going to be a great, I think I said this in our last episode, maybe it's going to be a great bridge, because we still have like 100 years before we max out the supply, but even then it can be so fractionalized. So Bitcoin's the bridge, but we're going to need to figure it out. I know
So
that.
you think a digital currency is going to be the way to realize human value in
Well,
a
so okay, hold on, time out. Why are we realizing human value?
Oh no, we were trying to put it into currency, weren't we?
Mm, I brought up Andrew Yang's point, but I guess maybe I wasn't trying to uh,
Yeah.
do anything. I was just trying to do it more for like an emotional appeal. There we go.
Yeah, totally. And I
Um,
once, dude, I'm such a literalist all the time, and that's definitely a problem that I have.
I'm sorry.
No,
Uh,
that I said that's a yes. It's okay. It's not your fault.
Man, there's like so many other topics we didn't touch that are connected to this, like population and
uh,
because like okay, but currency, yes,
no, you go ahead, man. I've been talking my ass off.
I don't have an answer, unfortunately, to your question. What do you think?
Oh, yes, no, I agree with you entirely. Is that we will need a currency to make economic transactions continue. However, I think it is almost like post-capitalism. Um, it's in the genesis of conceptualization.
The beginning of beginning to be thought about.
Yeah,
Well said, sir.
yeah. We don't know enough yet to really like make these big bold claims.
But I, oh, but
Right?
I, but I think like I like what I just came to that idea that if we use the planet as itself as like the backing for the currency, it's esoteric, but we can build on it. Um,
So you give the planet uh, a base value,
well,
and then
no,
distribute it to the population, or
and
that's really globalist. Yeah.
well, no, it has an infinite value. It's just a
Oh,
matter of finding a store of its value that is easy enough to use as a medium of exchange. So, but maybe like the focus could or should be potentially on just getting more people around that idea of the planet as the value. Because then that also like gives us that has because then that has a built-in sort of global or has a built-in climate change and a built-in sort of ecology control mechanism, because the fundamental basis of our currency is the planet. So then we're in the back of our mind thinking maybe we shouldn't over mine it and strip all of its resources, because that is a
yeah.
big problem.
Incentivizing.
And it's like axiomatic to I just wanted to use that word and I couldn't finish it.
I heard it the other day, and I was like, "Well done."
I know, yeah, me too. God dang it.
Sorry, yeah, that no, that's why I yeah, I was I don't know how you were relating it to that. I could see how you were, but I can't say specifically. Once again, I guess we're just talking about theoretical value, like what so your the idea is to incentivize people in this sort of global value because we all have stake in it.
Yes, we are all stakeholders in
Yeah.
the continuation of this planet, of this spaceship Earth. And what better way to show someone and to prove to someone that they are a stakeholder than by giving them a dividend every month of universal
Dude.
basic income.
Yeah.
I mean, I realize I'm being silly, but it's actually a very serious point. That's how I try to be serious, as I'm silly.
No, it's I think it's it's such a good sign that like we've finally come to such like not a point of agreement, like such a massive point of agreement. And like this doesn't happen very often, but I knew it would. And we've said this before, is it's just like when it comes down to it and we really talk about the issues and bear them out, we agree on a lot.
And I really think if more people could do that, that would be the case. Like our country would be so much more civil and friendly, and we'd better be able to compromise.
Yeah, especially after January 6th, 2021. I hate to be like, oh, Mr. Unity, but it's like, yeah, we kind of do need to just chill out and uh, chill out together.
But how?
Oh, God. Yeah, every time. Yeah.
Like,
No, and yeah. Uh, I get it. Like, I'm also not trying to say, like, oh, Joe Biden's going to get inaugurated and everything's going to be hunky dory again. You know, that's not how I think. Like, I don't want you to get that idea.
well, so now Trump supporters are going to turn into what the left have been, and Trump supporters are going to be
Yes.
like, we're going to have Biden derangement syndrome. And it's like, God damn it.
So it's really funny. Like, literally, the last time the left, a big portion of the left, just would not accept the election results. I was not part of that. Like, I wish I had been doing this so like there could be proof that I was not a Russia gator. Like that I didn't get on board with that at all. Never, not once. However,
How relevant.
if you want to be one of those people who continues to contest the election, that's fine. Have your investigations, do what you got to do. But like,
I heard a really good joke the other day. Hillary Clinton didn't cheat enough, and Joe Biden cheated too much.
Jesus Christ. Oh my God.
Oh man. I don't know if a Republican will ever win again. Like, I'm being serious. Like, at this point, but I say that saying like Democrats aren't going to always win, but a third party, I think it's so we're going to probably see Biden will maybe make it a year, and then we'll have Harris and probably Elizabeth Warren. God, I hope not. Speaking of no, God damn it, no. Okay, the Republican.
Hold on. Wait,
Yes.
go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, I'm just rambling. Go ahead.
No, this is a total point as well, but like also another point where like you and I just have massive agreement is yeah, I know you're not like a Bernie Krat like I am, I guess, because you got disillusioned. Like you said, you caucus for him and all that and whatnot. I get it. I'm still a little bit more of a Bernie crat than I imagine you are. I don't imagine you disagree with like most of his policy ideas still and all that. So now that the Senate got flipped, he is the ranking majority member of the budget committee and will likely be appointed the chairman position of the budget committee of the Senate. So that's pretty awesome. Like that's almost like him becoming like secretary of the treasury or something. Like it's a really good appointment that he's about to just like fall into.
Gosh, that just reminds me of 1998 when Hulk Hogan came back and won the world championship title belt again. Hulkamania.
How dare you compare
More or
Bernie
less
to the.
just it's political theater. But
No, that's a big deal. The budget committee. Did you not did the budget committee? That's a really important appointment. I get it. Yeah, whatever. It's all
so
bullshit,
well,
but
no,
we work within the system we've got.
yes. He is a good man. Well, so you and him are a lot alike in that I believe he's a good person with a good heart. Um, but I did caucus for him, and I was disillusioned. Like, um, yeah, I don't know. But this is the thing is like, I don't think you're a progressive. Whoa, there we go. Because like you're not, I don't know, like because you're not in that movement. You're not with those people.
What? Oh, so do you think I'm more amorphous, like almost hard to label? Is that what you're saying?
Well, so no,
Or
it's that
or is there another label you want to put on me?
no, it's that point I made earlier where like you have good intentions, but there are people who are using your label that don't.
Oh, you think a progressive is a you look at it negatively. I don't.
See, but like here's like, and I don't. This is. I think the true progressives are going to lose to the subversive left. That's ultimately what I think. I don't think we're going to see true progressivism again in this country until post-capitalism.
Okay. Yeah. I know what you're saying, and this is a big point made in actually the last article where it's like, what if capitalism? And it talks about the factionalism of the left and how the more I guess progressive, like truly progressive parts of it are being stifled and shut out by the cultural progressives.
And I believe that's happening. And so like I see you as a true progressive, but I see that the reason you've experienced so much vitriol and hate is because the cultural progressives have really done a lot of damage. And so that's you're fighting not just the conservatives, but you're also like you're fighting the conservatives who are angry at you because of the things that your allies are saying. And this is actually something I've wanted to say to a lot of my like specifically liberal, affluent, white progressive friends that are not radical, that you need to hold your party accountable for the radical members. And I've said this like before. I believe that it takes a village to raise a child, and if a member of your community or tribe is like fucking up, you need to speak up, or else you're doing damage to the whole tribe. And so I
So
think a lot of the reason you're getting so much resistance is because of that. And I'm sorry.
No, like in I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have a whole lot of resistance
For
like that.
for
I think
me,
maybe you're projecting a little bit of your experiences onto me because that hasn't happened a whole lot to me. The thing that kind of pissed me off most recently is that my senators, yes, my state senators, Kristen Sinema and the newly elected Mark Kelly, voted for the to rush through the $600 payment instead of waiting for the $2,000 stimulus. And I guess that's just the side I take on it. That one specifically, I wish that they had held out and not voted for it. And I'm going to call them and be like, hey, just so you know, I voted for both of you guys, and I think you made the wrong decision on this vote. So yeah, like I have more my shit's a lot more systemic, and like I'm not dealing with a whole lot of like personal stuff, especially because like if I did, I live in Arizona, and it would not be me dealing with the cultural left. I'd be dealing with it, dude. It's Trump country out here.
uh, I interrupt. I want to move to. I'm trying to move, but it's like hard when you don't have money. But like Arizona or New Mexico are on my list because I love the heat. And
I do love it here, and yeah, like I just said, we this is for the first time in like maybe ever we have two Democratic senators. So that's pretty crazy.
um, I don't want to be a nihilist. I don't want to be so jaded. I don't want to be so angry. And so, like, when you tell me these stories that you're going to call them, that like it's inspiring to me. It's like
Oh yeah.
I need to not be such a negative Nelly because like you're not gonna fucking get anywhere doing that shit. And so that's very admirable that you're going to call them. Because ultimately like activism is how shit gets done. And
Yes. And no, that's exact like the force the vote thing, dude.
Jimmy
I
Dore.
Dude, and what's so funny is like we talked about that in our last conversation. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then for like the next like 2 weeks, it was all I saw in my social media. Like, yeah, because yeah, I do follow. Yeah. Anyways,
Man,
now
I
I
love that
forgot what I
guy.
was even saying.
Um,
Um,
Progressives. Shoot, where were we? I don't know.
no, it was something about the local politics and all
Oh
that.
yeah,
Oh no,
you're calling your senators.
but yeah, also, and like that's Jimmy Dore's whole thing is like holding your representatives accountable. And that's what I thought was really interesting is he's calling out a congresswoman from the Northern District of New York, and it's like he doesn't even live there, he lives in California, and he's talking about, so once again I guess she has clout or whatever.
Well,
And
hold
all,
on. If you did you watch all of the footage because she literally like used as a campaign slogan
yeah,
that idea.
I,
So
I get it. And what's really funny is it would make way more sense if he had dropped that thing, or that his whole thing, his whole force the vote thing, like now, because Democrats have the executive, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. Force the vote makes more sense now than it ever has. So that's what I'm saying is like he knew these runoff elections were coming, and I'm saying if he had waited and dropped it right after the Senate flipped blue and now all three branches are blue, the force the vote thing just makes more sense.
but I think you're missing like what vote he was trying to force. It
Oh, yes. No. The Pelosi speaker.
yeah. So yeah, obviously now
Ooh,
that and see here's actually for you, here's going to be a great experiment or something to look at for the next 4 years. See how centrist, just corporately centrist, the next 4 years are going to be.
Yeah, I'm terrified.
And that's why Jimmy was so passionate, because that was their only opportunity to gain leverage,
Oh,
and they just gave it up. It's gone now. So yes, the Democrats have all the control, and they're not going to do shit with it except outsource more jobs and I almost said something Alex Jonesy.
no, I've kind of already said this, is like it doesn't even matter. Like all you one party can have all three houses, or the two houses and the executive, and still nothing ever gets done. Like you don't need bipartisanship for gridlock, which is insane.
While we're on somewhat of this subject, it's getting late and I'm getting a little tired, but I want to ask, do you have thoughts on Tulsi Gabbard?
I don't think she's as progressive as she's not as progressive as I thought she was.
Can you give me an example?
Her anti-trans views.
Can you elaborate further? So I'm familiar she put out some legislation, and this is something maybe.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
it.
well, so uh, are you that the I don't want to get into the trans thing. That's a whole nother thing.
Okay. Yeah, me neither. I was trying to think of something else that I don't. So like that's I mean,
Because I don't yeah.
I agree with her sort of anti-interventionist or non-interventionist uh positions, the military positions. I believe she's also uh a fan of decriminalizing the drug war, so that's good.
She's also a fan of universal basic income.
Yeah. So I guess it really is, like, off the top of my head, the only thing I can think of is the trans thing, and I don't think we should get into that either.
Well, and she has a what used to be an acceptable progressive position on pro-choice, but now is considered a far right, maybe far right's hyperbolic. But do you know what her position is on pro-life, pro-choice? And can I ask what the progressive position generally is?
I can tell you what my position is, but I don't know if that represents the general progressive position. So I believe, I mean,
Yeah, let's have you tell me yours first. Then I want to see
yeah,
what you.
this is going to be bad. It's going to sound bad, but either way, I basically believe that abortion is uh, is acceptable up until the third trimester, and after, or yeah, so through the second trimester, and after that, if it poses a health threat to the mother.
Okay, so
Because that's my whole thing about the hold on, let me just finish. My whole thing about abortion and abortion rights is I don't understand granting health rights or any rights really to something that is relying on another human for its existence. So until that human is outside of another human existing on its own, I don't think it has the same rights as the human that's carrying it. So that's why what my ultimate opinion is on abortion rights is it's up to the woman, uh, but legally, yes, until through the second trimester, uh, and afterwards, depending on health risks.
so you guys actually have the same position on abortion. You and Tulsi, that is.
Yeah, like there's people who think that, like, yeah, like
And so another example of like how the culture war has convoluted the conversation, unfortunately, is that there are people saying you should be able to abort a baby right up to birth. And it's a very small,
Well, once again, if
I
there are
agree.
health risks,
No. But they're saying electively. It's a very small portion, but that is such an extreme thing. And if it's said loud enough, and that's what I'm saying is I'm saying it's convoluting the conversation.
no,
So
and I would further convolute this conversation by saying mental health could be factored in as well. So that could be a reason why in the third trimester an abortion might be acceptable in my mind, because a female's entered their third trimester and I don't know, they're schizophrenic and they, for some reason, have gotten that far. And then they realize, oh, wow, maybe I shouldn't have this child. So that's a mental health thing that could maybe go further, or no, a mental health thing, like I just said, once in the third trimester.
and somehow we strayed into eugenics again.
Did we? Oh, yeah,
Kind of.
kind of. Yeah, kind of.
Well, I think it's related to all of it. Um Shoot, because then it's
No,
like, well, yeah, so what happens if we have UBI, but then a person has like 6 kids and one UBI isn't going to support them. And so that's like shit, man, it's late, but like that's another reason that's the self-responsibility thing is like at mm, why people are hesitant for social programs, because and it's like goes back to the health crisis, the overweight and obesity epidemic. People don't want to pay for universal health care because other people aren't going to take care of their bodies, so why should I pay for them? And
yeah.
so it's like that connecting the cultural message. So it's almost like we almost do need to have a cultural message around eugenics. But
Well, no, no, I think there should, and there's a lot of it goes against the universal part of it, but I think incentivizing the UBI is actually a good thing, and that's when it becomes something else. It's not UBI, I guess, but either way, is like it's a program like that where you incentivize to make people to make good decisions with the money that you give them. And that's why I think, yeah, it should be part of public education, like economics, like how to spend the money that the government gives you. Like that should be taught to you. Right? No? Oh, oh, wow. Yeah, that sounded really bad.
sorry, but the fact that you like acknowledged it made the moment better. It just made that moment for me.
It sounds bad, but it's not. When it comes to UBI, that's sort of like
So
the
sorry.
common sense conclusion.
Well, yes. Man, it's like, but then are private schools allowed? So who teaches?
Schooling will look entirely different.
Yes. Well, and so yes, and going back to like student loan and debt slaves, we'll have a lot more trades. Because robots can't like climb in crawl. They're not yet, but they can't climb in under houses to do installation, and so
Well,
there's still going to be a lot of work that humans will need to learn how to do.
this is actually another thing that somebody suggested to me when they were talking about making public universities more public. Is like, yeah, if you want to get like a liberal arts degree in history or psychology or something like that, that's fine. But like, you shouldn't. There should be incentives for degrees in engineering and degrees in computer science and things like that.
That's
Like, yeah,
that's
go
called the
ahead.
market.
Not well, I mean, what?
It's
Explain
called
to
the
me how
market.
that.
people pursue those degrees because they want to make money. So then how do we incentivize these people to pursue these things when money isn't an issue? I still actually think people will pursue them if there's a cultural
Because
message.
some people don't find history and psychology
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
English literature interesting. So like that'll be left to people like me. And I it will still be public to me, but it's going to be harder for me to find a job because it's not a uh high need thing. Like the necessity for it's not going to be as much as somebody who gets a degree in engineering or computer science. However, there will still be careers out there, and that's why it should all still be public. Like if you want to get educated, that should be public. Like I don't understand. And yeah, that you're talking about student debt slaves. Like why does that exist?
Well, I think because our government is well, so I don't even think it's our government. It's like the ruling class.
No,
That's
it's
why I
because
say,
of privatizing of post-secondary education.
do you know how post-secondary education started?
Yes, like the first universities were in like Cambridge, like they. Oh, the church.
Well, so kings and queens and pirates
And the
uh,
church.
in the church. And so the people of power would identify young men who had potential and they would
Yeah.
conscript them into a trades and whatnot. And that evolution of identifying people with potential grew into trade schools and then the universities. But it was always about so when so these terms like the patriarchy, they're kind of correct, which is frustrating because I want to engage these people in conversation because they are very patriarchal and monarchical driven, like from
You should get to the point where these terms don't matter with me. But keep going.
well, so I talk like because I realize nobody watches these videos yet, but they might someday. Um shit, okay. But the education systems were just designed to cultivate the potential of young men and women to make the lives better for the ruling class. That's what they've always been for. I'm rambling now. Fuck, I had a better point, but I
No,
lost it.
I just disagree. Education, the primary goal of education is to create an educated populace because you don't want, and this is like we've talked about before. If you're living in a community and you raise stupid kids, you should be chastised by the community.
You're
That's why public education exists, because we want the populace to be educated.
you're right and not. Yes, we do want that, but like you're the we that we're using is not the we who pulls the strings of our country. The we you're using is the royal we of the people.
So
But
we're only as educated as they want us to be. And by they, I'm talking about the we that you're talking.
the yes, like why are so many people fat and fucking dumb? Because
Yeah, because they haven't been educated on making the right decisions. This is why public education needs to change. I agree entirely, but doesn't mean it shouldn't exist. Public education is a fucking necessity.
well, so I was just going to ask if you have a favorite Roman philosopher you identify with, because I just pictured you as like an old man, like teaching,
Roman?
or just not Roman, well, any, I guess, but like I just pictured you as an old man teaching history and philosophy to like 10 students. And it's like that's just the right number because you can get paid well because they're paying you, but then also like you can invest in them adequately.
Yes.
So I agree with
Would
you.
be the
We need,
perfect profession for me.
yeah, see, and I can see you doing that.
But once that's not like there's no modern application for that. So I'm a
Well,
history
there
teacher.
might be, but it might be something you might not approve of. I think
Like
that would be
cult
in line
leader?
with like a charter school,
Oh,
which
charter schools?
they're controversial, aren't they?
No, I do. My brother Cody works for a fucking charter school.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's a mixed bag, like for sure, and like I have mixed feelings about them, but I'm not like against them.
um, gosh dang it, like because I,
So I haven't read a whole lot of philosophy, but I did read. I think it was Socrates. I read a lot of Socrates, and I really, really, really liked pretty much everything I read from him. Yeah,
um,
it was Socrates, definitely. He wrote the trials, or like there was like the trials of Socrates.
yeah. So I think that was the only thing, and I don't even know if he wrote it or not, but there's debate around how much Socrates actually wrote or how much Plato wrote through Socrates and together.
Yep.
Um, but that's who I had pictured, kind of, was like a Socrates Plato-esque character. Um, uh, because we do need, like, knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. And that's the thing is I I say this: an empowered and informed individual will make the right decisions, and that can be applied to almost everything. That can be applied to things like climate change. That can be applied to like health and wellness. That can be applied to like not exploiting people in
Dude,
any capacity.
I read like 50 pages of thick academic writing to prepare for this conversation. I'm all about knowledge, and like I actually I feel so bad. Sorry to
No, no,
not
go ahead.
not placating or patronizing you here, but I do feel bad about the last time when you said you're having trouble reading stuff, because I got out of my academia is pretty much over at this point, and I am reading for my pleasure for the first time in a long time, and it feels good. So I hope you can get back into it.
Uh, Thank you. I am trying not to say much right now, but if the pieces continue to fall into place, my life could see a dramatic improvement in terms of safety and stability and affordability in housing. Um, but it's still very preliminary, and I'm trying not to jinx myself. And so I might have just said too much right there.
You're in
But
my prayers. I don't pray, but I'll cross my fingers for you. Should we cross dicks or something?
I haven't done that since Boy Scouts.
Oh, that's gross. All right,
Uh,
so yeah, it is getting late. Is there any final points you want to make on post-capitalism?
I was no. You did come very prepared, and thank you very much, because I feel like you carried this, and
Dude,
because of my life has been so chaotic, like I've been looking forward to this, um, and so thank you very much. Thank you.
yeah, I was actually, for some reason, like more nervous about this one than almost any of our other ones. I don't know why. Um, and yeah, we should have a conversation about January 6th and all that, but we definitely should have some written correspondence on what exactly we want to talk about.
I agree. I agree.
So we don't just like start yelling at each other.
Yes, yes, because that's spicy.
It is. It's hot stuff. Hot stuff.
Do
Um,
you have like any last things or um
uh, no, I think UBI is something that is almost inevitable. Like too, like yeah, with the automation and all that stuff, it's gonna happen.
just hopefully sooner rather than later?
Yeah, and
But
hopefully it's not some like garbage plan, the way we usually do things.
I think that'll be the January 6th conversation.
Okay, man. I'm really glad this one went so well, and
Yes. You called the pause at the right time. Thank you for doing that.
yeah, I'll just pause it right now. We can end it right now.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
gonna
Yeah.
stop the recording.
All right, man. Yeah, no, I'm out of here, man. I love you. Thank you very much for this. Oh, are you gone? Nope.
No,
Okay.
I stopped the recording. You
Oh,
can keep.
okay. Okay.